Shall we move on to our? What I'd like to move on to, if I could, is the worst. Which it sounds funny because I've just been saying, "Oh, we're toxic place, the internet." So I'm going to join the toxicity and move on to the sort of craziest or worst Mania moments. If you're happy with that.
Yeah, let's do it.
And given that I started the last one off, Carl, would you like to start this one?
Sure thing. So let me take you back on a journey to WrestleMania 6. So this one is not, I don't think it'd be the worst thing on many people's lists, but for me, it was awful. So I am a massive Mr. Perfect mark, as everyone will know. And as of WrestleMania 6, he was not, he'd never been defeated, at least not on TV. So he had a winning streak, as you would expect, and the match unfolded, and they ended up basically having fucking Brutus the Barber Beefcake beat Mr. Perfect at WrestleMania. And as a young, how old would I have been? Can't even think how old I would have been, but as a very young child, I was fucking fuming. And still to this day, I'm not quite over it. I just think, they built Mr. Perfect up with a streak, not like a Goldberg streak where he felt like he was invincible, because a lot of the times when he ended up not losing was because he fucking was a dirty bastard. He got counted out or got disqualified, that kind of stuff. So it was never like he was invincible, but he'd never been defeated, and it was because he always had the perfect game plan. And I just think to waste that kind of first kind of defeat on someone like fucking Brutus the Barber Beefcake was just a criminal offense.
No, I totally understand where you're coming from there. It's always a shame when they end something that's been built up so well, so randomly, And I can't. For me, obviously, again, it's WrestleMania 6, so I can't fully appreciate the story behind it. But yeah, obviously, I can imagine it's quite personal for you as well, because Mr. Perfect's he's your guy, he's your wrestler, isn't he?
Well, that's it. So I was very, very traumatized for many years. All the way up until my 31-year-old self now. Still not quite getting over it. So
we're getting there. We're getting there.
Slowly but surely. But yeah, so that was one of the darkest days of my WrestleMania memories, of finally seeing Mr. Perfect's undefeated streak come to an end, which is a sad thing to think about.
Yeah, and a strange way to end it, really. Strange wrestler to end it on. No offense, obviously, to Brutus, but it wasn't. You think they were going to save it for something bigger, and again, all due respect, but it just seems a strange one to go out on when you built up like that.
I think, I mean, this could be purely kind of conjecture, but I think at the time he was very, very close with Hulk Hogan. So it wouldn't surprise me if Hogan had kind of convinced Vince that this should be the outcome or whatever to kind of get Brutus over. But yeah, it was the wrong choice, definitely. Regardless of whether it was Hogan pushing for it or Vince or whoever, it just, it didn't make sense at the time for me, for that to be the one, or, for him to be the person who would kind of take that off Perfect.
No, yeah, I totally agree. There's not much else I can say on that, but it was a very strange booking in some respects.
Yep. Next is 3 years later, so WrestleMania 9. So this one, again, still greatly offends me. So this was... in fact, was this WrestleMania 9? I'm starting to doubt myself now. Was it WrestleMania 10? Let me just consult Wikipedia here.
It's probably better. I did that halfway through mine before, like, you put the numbers down and you start doubting yourself, don't you? Going, did that happen? Did that happen at that point?
Uno momento.
Isn't he wrestling for AEW at the minute?
No, that's evil Uno momento. WrestleMania X. Hopefully I'm not wrong here. No, I am not wrong. So I was right all along, as I knew. Ha ha ha. Yes, WrestleMania 9 saw the main event being Bret Hart versus Yokozuna for the WWE Championship, and it was, it was a really good WrestleMania in a sense, because it was an outdoor event. They had like this little Caesar's Palace type thing going on where everyone was dressed up as Greek,
Oh yeah, I recall that arena, yeah.
Yeah, so it's something that kind of stands out, and when you think back to WrestleMania, is something that you kind of think, oh yeah, that was quite cool. But unfortunately, the main event was not, and it was my one of my favorites at the time, Bret Hart, was taking on Yokozuna for the WWE Championship, and Mr. Fuji got involved and threw some dust in Bret Hart's eyes, causing him to kind of lose his vision, and then Yokozuna ended up winning the match, and nobody was happy. But then, out of nowhere, a returning Hulk Hogan comes back, to which the fans are all pumped up about, except for me, who's going, what the fuck, why is he back? And then, Brett's just lost, and, apparently he's really cool with the fact that Hogan's come out and basically tells him to go and avenge his loss. And then Hogan proceeds to squash Yokozuna in around about 20 seconds and win the belt after being away for fucking God knows how many years doing movies. So, yeah.
Yeah. So he finished filming the nanny or whatever that babysitting one he was in, and thought, "Fuck it, I'm gonna go back to wrestling."
Yeah.
Because his career in comedy wasn't the best. Yeah, I mean, it's a strange booking for a lot of reasons. That I mean, even just how quick he managed to deal with it is it's not good for Brett that at all. And like you say, I'm quite surprised when you say that Brett was sort of all on board for like, yeah, you go and deal with it. It's yeah, very, very unusual setup. I mean, I think obviously the big thing for everyone was Hulk's back, so the way you got there was probably irrelevant to a lot of people. But I can see why that's frustrating for you, especially obviously you're a Bret Hart fan, and more so than Hulk Hogan anyway. But
Well, that's it. I felt like
very unusual setup there.
I felt like we'd seen enough of Hogan by this point, and we'd definitely seen enough of Hogan winning the belt at WrestleMania. So it kind of felt, it just didn't feel organic. It felt like, why would Brett be happy for Hogan to avenge his loss after he just got screwed over and stuff, and basically, yeah, you go on and win the title. It just, I don't know, it felt very thrown together and just didn't feel like it made a lot of sense. And
I mean, it does feel odd, mate, because I mean, when you consider this man was in the title picture at WrestleMania 1.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and comes back at WrestleMania 9 to be in the title picture is crazy.
Well, that's it. And it was just, I don't know, it just kind of felt really off. And I think they were trying to go like a new direction at the time with like Brett after kind of recovering from all the big, superstars that left. They had Hogan, you had Savage, you had Ultimate Warrior, you had all like Sid Vicious, all these guys who were kind of leaving at this time. Brett was kind of carrying the kind of pressure. The other like Yoko, who was trying to take on that pressure as well, and then they just kind of shit the bed and brought Hogan back. And for me, and I think for a lot of people, it just didn't, I don't know, it just didn't feel right. It was like, why go down this new direction and then just kind of shit the bed and bring Hogan back? And ultimately he didn't end up staying for very long as well, so it just kind of felt flat ultimately.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Crazy setup. And it sort of almost smacks of their reliance on older stars, even as far back as then. I mean, they're still doing it to this day, aren't they? Let's be honest.
Well, that's it. At least you can say one thing, and that is that they are consistent.
Yeah.
If they can bring a big name back and screw over any of the current talent in order to do so, then they will definitely do that. And even back in WrestleMania 9, that was no different. So
yeah, I dare say if Hogan could come back now, he probably would surprise everyone at WrestleMania 36.
I mean, don't put it past him. Seriously, it could happen.
Yeah. But he's a bit past it now. He'd probably get the day wrong. It's over 2 days now. He'd probably get a bit confused.
I mean, he was past it then. He still thought he was in the Silver Dome, so,
I forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah, that was a nice little fuck up.
So, yeah, WrestleMania 9. Not good. Next one for me was WrestleMania 27. So, yeah, just a match that never needed to happen and just should never happen again was Jerry Lawler versus Michael Cole. I mean, who the fuck wants to see Michael Cole wrestle?
Michael Cole.
I think back to this and just think, what the fuck were they thinking? For whatever reason, they were really big on Michael Cole at this time. It was fresh off the fucking anonymous GM stuff where he was like the main heel on Raw, reading out these fucking GM statements, and then they suddenly inexplicably had, I think it was, they had Jerry Lawler go up for a WWE Championship match on Raw or something like that, and Cole ended up costing him the match by, I think it was like a ladder match, and he ended up kind of pushing Jerry Lawler off, and that was what set up the feud. And it just felt stupid having them two sat next to each other on commentary every fucking week, and then, but really having this animosity between each other apparently, and then leading to a match. It was like, I don't know, it just, yeah.
No, I think sincerely, and I'll precursor this by saying, obviously, I'm well aware that Jerry Lawler was an active wrestler at one point in his life, but at this point, I'd been commentating for a long time and had not been an active wrestler for a long time. So essentially, what you've got is WWE going. I wonder how good it'd be if we had the commentating team wrestle a match. It wouldn't be good. WWE, it would never be good. You know, if you're tempted to do it with the other announcers, the other the German announcers or the Mexican ones or whatever, don't. It doesn't work. It never will work. And what a fucking mess. Like, don't be wrong, Jerry Lawler. Like, you know, he's old. He's not in the best of shape, but I reckon he could still take Michael Cole. I don't know. Even Michael should have been well aware of that. So from a story point of view, why would you try and square up to the man anyway?
Well, exactly. And I think the thing that kind of disappointed me more than anything else is that he didn't seem like he put a single ounce into learning how to wrestle. And, you know, you think about the other kind of attractions or the side shows that WrestleMania puts on. I think about fucking, I'm not sure which Mania it was, but I think her name's Maria Menounos, who's like a TV personality, kind of had a tag team match. Maria Menounos had a tag team match with Kelly on one WrestleMania. I think it was like Beth Phoenix and someone else. I can't remember who it was that they were fighting. And she had 2 broken ribs at the time, and she'd just come off Dancing with the Stars. But she was like quite a big celebrity, to America. She was on like all like the Access shows as like this well-known presenter, and she put on a fucking better match than Michael Cole. And I'm not being funny, but Michael Cole works for the fucking company. He could have at least bothered his ass to learn how to wrestle.
You think, I don't expect him to be in the gym and being as pumped up as everyone else. He doesn't have to be Vince McMahon and be obsessed with it so much that you put yourself in the ring. But he's so involved in the industry, you'd expect that, wouldn't you? Like, another example being, I can't remember what event it was, so apologies. It might have even been in WrestleMania, but there was a match that involved Snooki from the Jersey Shore. In a tag match.
Was, WrestleMania,
and even she put some effort in and learned some stuff, and was actually, I wouldn't say impressive in the ring. She's not a wrestler, but for someone who's not a wrestler, she surprised you. So the fact that Michael Cole can't is a little bit insulting, or didn't bother to, actually, I think is the way you put it, and probably the more accurate. It's quite insulting. It's like he's there day in, day out, and he from his own memory could have actually picked up on and educated himself on a good few things, but yeah, it was kind of lazily put together for comic effect, wasn't it, really?
That's it. And I think, not to kind of digress too much from what just reminded me then with the whole Snooki thing is she actually did put on quite a good show with the whole, I think it was a mixed tag team. It was like a triple tag team match, something. It was her and Trish Stratus and John Morrison together as one team. But she actually, did do a level of stuff. But interestingly, that was the match that kind of led to John Morrison's demise from WWE at the time.
I believe so, because wasn't he a bit of a funny cunt with Trish Stratus?
Yeah, so I believe the story at the time was that Melina felt like Trish Stratus stole her spot. So if Trish wasn't coming back, the match was going to be Snooki and Morrison and Melina versus this. And it was like, come on, Melina, you can't fucking wrestle. You were never going to get that spot to begin with anyway. But she basically had Johnny Morrison wrapped around her fucking little finger at the time and basically said, don't show her an ounce of respect or, love. So when they won the match and Trish Stratus went to hug him afterwards, he literally awkwardly did everything he could to get away from her.
It's crazy, that, isn't it? And I'm correct in saying Melina, I know she had a bit of an in-ring career, but she was more notable as the valet for Eminem. She was never much of an in-ring competitor anyway, so it's an odd stance really to take. But
yeah, exactly.
Shows you.
Yeah.
Whipped is the word, I believe, John.
Definitely. So basically
So there's an extra one for free, guys. An extra one for free.
There you go. But the moral of the story is Michael Cole, stay the fuck out of a WWE ring.
Please.
Please.
So I know we're getting desperate with this coronavirus, Michael, but if I see you in the fucking ring,
just don't fucking do it. Don't do it. So the next one on my list was WrestleMania 28, and it was the first. Well, in fact, it was not the first encounter, the second encounter, but it was Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan. So the first encounter was actually the year before, so they'd been meaning to square off for a while. They got moved to the pre-show the year before, so obviously I was quite excited to see them at WrestleMania 28 actually have their match. And it was a weird circumstance at the time because Sheamus was being booked as the face and Daniel Bryan was being booked as the heel, which didn't really make that much sense. And he had AJ in his corner because of that whole thing that was going on. And basically, the match lasted fucking 18 seconds and literally
That was
Brian got the ring.
was it a good 18 seconds, Carl? Did you enjoy it?
I mean, I can think of a few 18 seconds in my life that I've really enjoyed. This was not one of them. And yeah, so it was literally a bro kick and a pin for Sheamus. And I don't know, I was just really pissed off by this because, it was Daniel Bryan at the time, moving on from his shit tenure in NXT under The Miz and stuff like that. He was starting to kind of cement himself as a top kind of WWE talent, and he just fucked him over. And it was like, well, the previous year you fucked him over, and now this year you're fucking him over again. And yeah, it just didn't really sit well with me. I don't think it sat well with a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the 18 seconds more than the win. Think about that, right? If it was definitely 18 seconds, which I'm sure is accurate, that means that Shorty G lasted longer against Sheamus than Daniel Bryan.
Well, there you go.
What the fuck?
Exactly.
How is that even possible?
It was just a waste of time, really. I think
it's something they would never do now. They would never put Daniel Bryan in a match to be squashed in that sort of fashion. That wouldn't happen now.
I think from memory, this is the same WrestleMania that John Cena basically said, "Do you know what? I don't cut the fucking Brodus Clay match or the Brodus Clay segments where him and the Funkadactyls were coming out for a fucking 15-minute segment or something."
That's not the one where he brought his mum out, was it?
No, I don't think so. But if you think about it, Brodus Clay got 15 minutes to fucking go out there and do a dance, and Daniel Bryan got 18 seconds.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, I'm very understanding of the fact that WrestleMania is long. There's a lot going on, and they need to cut things where appropriate. But you just fuck John Cena. You just cut the fucking Brodus Clay thing.
And John, if you're ever looking at being a booker again, if you have something called the Funkadactyls and you need to cut something from your show, cut the Funkadactyls. It's a simple choice. A choice everyone should make.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully we'll never see that again, but who knows?
Well, wasn't Naomi one of the Funkadactyls?
She was.
So unless they do some sort of trip down memory lane, I can't see the Funkadactyls being a thing ever again. That's good, Every cloud.
It is WWE. You never know. So that was one that I just wanted to bring up just for the sheer kind of annoyance it brought me at the 18-second finish to something of the caliber of Daniel Bryan, and in fairness to Sheamus as well. It could have been something that was pretty good, and they fucked it over twice 2 years in a run. So
there you go, Sheamus. You lasted 18 seconds and we all felt unsatisfied. Well done.
Yeah, that's something I'm sure he can resonate with on a daily basis. And then last one on my list was just more for the sheer kind of disgust, really, was Big Show versus Akibono in a sumo match.
So when you say disgust, was this just because of Big Show's outfit, or?
Yeah, it was just the ass cheeks everywhere, to be fair. I don't know what they were thinking. I'm all for star power at WrestleMania and people who are, big names and bring them in and get them involved. It makes sense at WrestleMania. Yep, do it. Who the fuck's it? Like, what the fuck's an Akibono? And why the fuck is, Big Show wearing a nappy? It just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think
it's a very niche thing, isn't it? And I don't know. It could be an ignorance from our side over the side of the pond, but was Akibono was sumo big enough for everyone to be like, wow, Akibono? Like, was that a thing?
Well, that's it. I mean, even if it was big in Japan or wherever, it wasn't big enough on a global scale, so it just didn't make any sense. I think
I wouldn't have thought, I'd even think if it was big enough in America, but I'm not sure most Americans would have known who the fuck he was.
Well, exactly.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, you've got Big Show versus Floyd Mayweather one year. That makes perfect sense, and it was a big, no pun intended, a big money event. But
it was a big show.
It was a big show. Definitely money. But yeah, this Akibono thing just didn't make any sense at all, really, of why it was even on there. So yeah,
an unusual stance. Yeah,
it's something I look back and there has been some awful matches and awful segments in WrestleManias, but that one for me just kind of felt like, what the fuck are they doing? that one, they've done other stuff in the past. They've done like Bart Gunn versus Butterbean in a boxing match and stuff. And
yeah, that didn't Butterbean actually take his career?
Oh, he twatted him, yeah. It was, poor Bart Gunn, really. That whole tournament was set up because, JR was a big fan of Dr. Death Steve Williams at the time and felt like he was a very big like bruiser. He'd had a bit of MMA experience, that kind of thing. So the whole tournament was set up for him to win it, so they could push him as a big star. And then fucking Bart Guns smashes him in the first round and ends up going through to the whole tournament. So do you think, shit, what can we do? I know, we'll put him in against a legitimate boxer. And obviously,
Yeah.
fucking he's gonna
Like-
get twatted.
Like, guess what, guys? Despite how Butterbean looks, which I'm sure was a Vince McMahon factor. It's like, look at him, but he was a credible boxer.
Yeah.
That was credible, by the way, not incredible. I'm not naive. I know there was bigger boxers out there, but he was a legitimate boxer, unlike Bart Gunn.
Well, exactly. I mean, I suppose the only silver lining from that thing was the fact that he got to knock out JBL, which I'm sure we do at some point in our lives.
Yeah, I think if they offered that as some sort of fan service you could pay for, I certainly would have a go. Yeah.
Well, if you listen to WWE, the next Access event, make it happen.
Just even just take a swing. $10. I'd pay $10.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd pay them. I'd probably pay them more, to be fair, just to get a swing. But yeah, just let us do it, whatever the amount.
Yeah, we'll club in. It's fine.
Yeah, just everyone gets to go. So that was kind of my big five that I could recall in the space of a couple of hours of.
I think you ended up with a big 7 there because we digressed a couple of times, but nevertheless, some top ones there. What I did, Carl, I tried to find some absolute fucking wildies. So, sorry for any Americans listening, some very unusual ones. So some of these probably aren't the biggest things, but they were that strange that I kind of wanted to list them. So the first one I'm going to mention is WrestleMania. Do you know what? I'm going to say 18 because the way I've wrote it, I put X8. WrestleMania 18. Booker T versus Edge. The match itself, not got an issue with. The reason for the match, Carl. Do you remember the reason for this match?
No.
Booker T was jealous that Edge got a shampoo commercial in Japan. That was the basis for this feud.
That can't be true.
That is legitimately true. That was the sort of the sticking point for it. They had some sort of backstage segments where they argued over it, and yeah, that was sort of the driving point for this match. The jealousy Booker T had. Why? Fuck knows. What a strange
Holy
decision.
Shit.
What a strange decision to make. So that's my first one. I imagine, Carl, do you recall this match?
Honestly, not even slightly.
No, it's weird as well because it sounds like it should be a bigger match. Booker T was big at this point. Edge obviously is a legend, so it feels like it should have been a bigger match. But it was just such a daft throwaway thing to the point that you don't recall it. Like, why would you? I had to go scouring to find some unusual stuff, so even I didn't recall it. You know what I mean? Very unusual.
Yeah,
but I want to throw there because as far as bookings go, that whoever wrote that one wants shooting. Right, so the next one I've got is actually not from WrestleMania itself, right? Is from a sort of a special that was put on around Mania, televised on NBC. And the reason I want to list it is, and I didn't know this. I find this absolutely fucking crazy, and you can find it on the internet. I'll provide links if anyone wants them. Right, is the fact that Undertaker done his usual entrance, and I don't know what the issue was NBC had with his entrance, but they weren't. Oh, I do. Sorry, his entrance music wasn't traditional Undertaker music. It was back when he was using Johnny Cash. You know, the "Ain't No Grave" song.
Oh yeah.
And NBC took issue with the song. I don't know if it was a copyright thing or a sensitivity thing, but they couldn't use the song. They couldn't use "Ain't No Grave." And what would you do in that scenario, Carl? If you were NBC?
I mean, I'd probably just revert to his Dead Man song.
That'd make a bit of sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Right. They chose to use Katy Perry's "E.T."
What?
Yep. And
Seriously?
I have found this video. It is true. They dubbed over "Ain't No Grave" and had Undertaker walking out. Admittedly, he didn't actually walk out to it, but they had him walking out to a Katy Perry song.
Holy shit.
Holy shit, Cal. What the fuck is that? So that couldn't have not been on this list. That is just insane. And I know I'll give WWE credit. They were never crazy enough to do that. This is a decision NBC made, and I have no idea why. And I imagine WWE had to sign off on it in some way. So I really don't get why it didn't just jump back to his original Deadman music, which I believe was a Jim Johnson track anyway. So it's not like WWE would have had any issue licensing that over to them.
I mean, exactly. But of all the songs in the world, why the fuck do you use a Katy Perry song?
It's crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy.
Do you know, like, I kind of just got like visions in my head of like in the old SmackDown games where you could set an entrance and there's like ballet ones and stuff like that. I've just got visions of someone doing that and Undertaker come down like the fucking ballet dance to Katy Perry.
I'll genuinely send you a link after this broadcast, mate. It's weird, but yeah. So I needed to mention that one. It had to happen. So going back to a more legitimate, a more an actual entry that WWE did was around the time it was WrestleMania 29, and it's not a big thing, but when you consider at the time, and I'm trying to be fair to Ryback here, because Ryback was sort of in the midst of his push, as a top guy. They were at the time they were booking him as a sort of unstoppable monster, as it were, a Goldberg type character, and they just saw him lose in a sort of nothing match to Mark Henry. And again, no disrespect to Mark Henry, but it was just the choice to sort of ruin a push for a new star, which is, I'll be honest, nothing new for WWE, again, without being too bitter. So I wanted to mention it. It's not the biggest entry in the world. It might not necessarily class as worst, but I wanted to put it in there just because I'm trying to sort of keep to a bit more modern stuff as well. And as far as like he was really big at one point, Ryback. I've never really been a big fan, but especially around this point, he was hot, and they were pushing him something shocking, and then they just sort of made this odd booking choice, which took the momentum right out of him. Really, do you recall this one?
I mean, I do remember it vaguely, but you just reminded me. I can't think why at the time they did derail him so much, because I mean, I know he'd had some stuff in the past where like people have said that he wasn't the safest of workers, for example, but
yeah,
I don't see that as being a reason to kind of derail his push and having him lose at Mania to Mark Henry.
Well, that's the thing, and I don't know if there might be some thingy to that, whether certain people who were high up enough got him pushed out in that respect, because he became a jobber anyway, and I think he'd left sort of complaining that he was a jobber. I mean, to be fair, the way he left the review, he was kind of weird as well, because he left moaning about equal pay, which was never going to happen. The ones who make them the most money are going to make the most money themselves, just natural order, isn't it? But the whole sort of is fall from grace, really, I think. And again, correct me if I don't want to be quoted on it, because I can't say for sure it was true, but one of the biggest people who spoke out about him being an unsafe worker was CM Punk, and I don't know if he had enough influence to say no, he needs to sort of go down the card or whatever. But I know CM Punk certainly complained because he botched, I believe, I don't know if he was meant to slam onto a table or whichever, but he botched a move on the entrance area and nearly done CM Punk's back in. And I think Punk took a lot of umbrage to that, to the point that I've sort of heard about it. I think it might have been when he was being interviewed by Colt Cabana when he's mentioned it. But again, at that time, CM Punk was probably the face of the industry. So I don't know if he's had enough juice to sort of say no, he's too unsafe. Again, speculation, albeit, but certainly an odd booking choice anyway.
Yeah, I mean it is kind of a crazy thing to think. I think at the time, was Mark Henry getting pushed at this point, or was this like post or pre-push?
I want to say it was post-push, but it could have been pre. I'm trying to remember, because Mark Henry's been an up and down guy for so long that I honestly he's always pre-push or post-push, isn't he? Let's be honest.
Yeah, no, that's very.
He's a fucking roller coaster, that man.
Yeah, I think it's one of them. If it was like around the time he was kind of getting over, then I suppose it's not the end of the world. But at the same time, if it was during the time where it was just Mark Henry just comes out and doesn't really do anything, then it is quite a big kind of derailing of his push, really.
To be honest, and again, it's without doing any research because I'm being lazy. Looking at the fact it was Mania 29, I'm going to suggest it was post push, because I don't think Mark Henry was doing much around then. I really don't.
No.
So that's that one. The next one I wanted to mention was WrestleMania 32, which pitted Dean Ambrose against Lesnar. And to be honest, this was worst for me, and the reason I want to list it, and again, it's as far as history goes, this won't be the worst, but I want to list it on my 5 because this was a problem with the modern product in that they booked it wrong because this should have been a really good match. Ambrose is a big character, Lesnar's a big character, but they were booking it as like this is going to be really hardcore. Do you remember them booking this, Cal?
Oh yeah, I remember it.
Yeah.
It was
There's no holds barred street fight match.
Exactly, they built it up as though it was going to be a fucking death match.
Yeah, they were talking about like barbed wire bats, chainsaws, and everything at one point. It was crazy. And
Well,
it's like
he brought out a fucking chainsaw, didn't he, Dean? He was like, and then I mean that definitely didn't unfold in the match.
And the trouble is, and don't get me wrong, they did some spots, but the way they were building it up was like it was going to be like a really hardcore match, and I think they maybe overbooked it, especially for at the time a very PG product. So I wanted to list it for that reason, really. That I think this is one of the driving points for Ambrose wanting to go, because it really stagnates your creativity when you can they were so intent on building it as something that was going to be really hardcore. And he's the lunatic fringe, and then he wasn't allowed to do anything loony, really. So, yeah, I think this just sort of fizzled, really, from the build up and the even I got to a point when I'm like, Jesus, I wonder what this match is going to entail. They're really making out like it's going to be a big hardcore thing, and there wasn't much to it, really. No.
I think it was definitely something where at the time they made it seem like this was going to be a serious kind of hardcore, like similar to the Kenny Omega, John Moxley fucking hardcore battle that they had at AEW.
Exactly.
Like you thought it was going to be almost like an old school deathmatch kind of thing where there was going to be fucking barbed wire ropes and fucking explosions and everything and fire and they made out like it was going to be so hardcore, and literally all it was there was a couple of fucking chairs I think maybe made an appearance.
Yeah, I want to say, did they do thumbtacks or was that a different match? Was that him versus Jericho?
Yeah, I don't even think they did. Yeah, I think it was really tame.
I know Ambrose has done the thumbtacks at one point, hasn't he? But I don't think it was with Brock. But yeah, it was very tame, a very tame match especially for the way they built it up. And it's not like I was expecting more. It was the fact that they told me there was going to be more. If he's walking out with a chainsaw, then I didn't expect him to use the chainsaw, but nevertheless, you make it out like it's going to be really extreme, and it wasn't. It was just a bit. It just fizzled. There was nothing to it. So yeah, as far as recent history goes, that was probably one of the worst matches I've seen. And again, purely for a booking aspect.
I think I remember vaguely something around Ambrose thinking that part of the reasoning behind that was Lesnar. I think there was something around him not turning up until like only a couple of hours before the show, so they couldn't really plan it out and they couldn't build any spots or something like that, maybe.
Right.
But I don't know. Honestly,
thing is, realistically, and again, this is speculation on my part because they haven't really said a great deal on Lesnar's side of it. But from a Lesnar point of view, you've come in, you're a part timer, you've got a great contract from WWE where you do a few hours and you earn a lot of money. I can't see him wanting to put himself in that much of an injury risk. And don't be wrong, we've seen recently with the way he's been with Drew McIntyre, he's willing to put people over and he's willing to put on a good match, and I'm not discrediting him for that. But why get yourself hit with chairs and bats and barbed wire and all sorts when you don't have to, and when you're earning big bucks anyway? So I couldn't see why Lesnar would want to put any effort into this, if you know what I mean. Again, speculative, albeit, but it just I could honestly see him not being that interested in the match anyway.
Yeah, I think whatever the reason was, it was basically definitely wasn't. They didn't deliver what they said they were going to, did they? So it was definitely
exactly, and it led to a lot of frustration for Dean, who is now John Moxley. Obviously, that with all the hokey storylines he went into after that, but I dare say this is probably one of the things where that's frustrating as fuck, and it's led to him ultimately making the choice he's made to leave. But yeah, so that's my fourth, and then my fifth one. This one, again, probably not a big deal to a lot of people, but this is kind of personal to me because it pissed me off at the time, right? And it's the fact that, right, I'm a big Undertaker fan, as you know, Carl, and as you know, I was introduced to Undertaker at the American Badass point, right? So we had this sort of build up to Nathan Jones. You remember Nathan Jones?
Oh yeah,
An
fucking.
Australian street fighty kind
What
of
was
guy.
he? The Sutton of Boggo Road. What was he? Something.
Beast. I want to say the Beast.
Yeah,
No,
maybe.
that is he stealing Brock there? I don't know. But yeah, and they were building him up. You know, they had this really cool kind of. It was badass, but it was a didgeridoo. I don't know how they managed that, but they built up this sort of Aboriginal Australian sort of sound and music that sounded cool, and they built him up like he was a maniac, and all the vignettes were really well put together, and you think, God, he's going to be a beast, and then we get to what essentially was led to believe to be a handicap match for the Undertaker at the time, which was originally booked as a tag match, and then essentially Nathan Jones made his debut, ran in to help the Undertaker, and then done like a very limp sort of spinning back kick kind of thing, and that was it, and that was pretty much it for his career. Like I don't know what happened with Nathan Jones, but this was like the most disappointing like surprise ever. But he come in to assist Taker, and the whole thing was just shit. It was just lame as fuck.
Yeah, I remember this very kind of distinctly because, I don't understand how we got to the point of being booked on WrestleMania to tag partner with Taker if you can't wrestle.
Yeah.
And it was very clear that was the case because they obviously shit the bed last minute. I think it was on Sunday Night Heat. I think it was still going at the time. I'm pretty sure it was like Nunzio or something had stolen Nathan Jones's wallet and lured him into the locker room, and then he got beat down by Big Show and A-Train. And like that's how he was taken out of the match, and that's how it became a handicap match. But it's like if he can't wrestle, why put him on WrestleMania? It just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it's a strange one because like, similarly to you, I remember when they introduced him as like this fucking maniac former convict from Australia, and he was like 7 feet tall. He was built like a brick shit house, and you're like, holy shit, this guy's gonna be something. But I think ultimately it was just they probably rushed him in too soon. He couldn't wrestle, and they probably just shit the bed at Mania and went like, fucking hell, we can't really put him in a match because he can't do anything, so we'll just book him to come out, do a spinny fucking kick and help Undertaker win.
It's just one of them where you go to yourself, did they have the gimmick before the wrestler or something? Because that guy should have spent a lot more time in developmental. It doesn't make sense why they were pushing the vignettes and why they were pushing him. They must have been seeing him training. Obviously the performance center weren't there at the time, but he'd probably been FCW or something, wouldn't he? They'd have seen him somewhere, and they'd have known his capability. I don't get why they got him to that point, and to come out and like an unusual comment to make, I suppose. But have you ever known like a big scary convict badass come out and then do a spinny kick? It wasn't really the best move either. He should have slammed someone if he could have. Like maybe that was the danger because he didn't know how to land these things properly. I don't know, but it was just such an odd thing to come in and do as well. Everything felt just weak and weird. I mean, the only saving grace I'll give it is that he helped Undertaker keep the streak going at that point. But it was just a weird. Not like it was ever going to matter because the Undertaker probably would have. They could have realistically booked the Undertaker winning by himself, and I'd have been totally fucking fine with that, to be honest with you. But just a very strange setup that I still don't forgive them for. I'll be honest.
I think they probably tried to give him like the John Cena treatment, where they saw some success with John, where they brought him from developmental and. In fairness, John's admitted this. When they brought him up as the Ruthless Aggression guy, he flopped. It was only once he started I think he was very close to being released even, and it was only once he came up with a rapper gimmick and then, kind of molded himself into becoming the top guy in the industry. So I think they kind of, at that time...
I take your point because I barely remember him as the Ruthless Aggression guy. Like they've shown you now when they show you the history of John Cena, like they like to do. They show you him like meeting the Undertaker backstage and Undertaker shaking his hand and showing him respect and stuff. I don't remember any of that. I only remember John Cena when he started coming out to the ring and talking shit with Bull Buchanan of all people. Do you remember that? B squared.
B squared, yeah, fucking hell.
And all B squared ever said was booyah.
Shit, I forgot about that.
Hey, do you know what? One thing John could have done when he brought back the thugonomics thing was to have Bull. I don't know if he could have. I don't know where Bull is these days, but to have him with him would have been funny as fuck for me. But that's how I remember John. I don't remember the ruthless aggression one.
Oh,
It must have been so brief, but like you say, it did flop. But they like to add it into his history now, don't they?
yeah. Fucking hell, that's definitely a trip down memory lane. I think as well that that WrestleMania match, I just remembered then the others kind of stand out for me in that match is the Undertaker screaming for help because the finish for that match I think was a tombstone on A-Train, so Albert, and I'm pretty sure when Taker picked him up, he nearly fucking broke his own back in the lift,
You're
and
joking.
he literally you can literally hear like an audible scream of "Help me!" and then like A Train has to like shift his weight to make stop Undertaker from like fucking dying basically. So yeah,
That's really funny. I
I
don't recall that, you know.
I remember that like clear as day because he's like this American badass guy and he's screaming out, "Help me!" Oh fucking hell.
Whatever happened to A-Train?
Um,
He
he
done the
came,
whole Japanese thing, didn't he? He done Japan for a while.
yeah, so he went to Japan. He came back as Tensai on Raw, and then that didn't work out. And then he's the lead trainer at the Performance Center now.
Oh, is he? Yeah.
He replaced Bill DeMott, who by all accounts is a twat. So at least
Really? Yeah.
yeah. Apparently he was fucking accused of all sorts of bullying and misconduct and everything when he was the trainer there. So
God.
I think his name is Matt Bloom, A-Train, but yeah, he's the main kind of trainer now at the Performance Center, and by all
Oh, that's
accounts,
nice
he's
to know
doing a
he's
really
doing
good
it.
job.
Like,
So
yeah.
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That's top marks. Then. Is Finley still involved?
Do you know what? I don't even know where Finley is now. I think he was a road agent for a bit, but I haven't seen him in ages.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm aware we're digressing from the topic, but
Mm.
yeah, I'm just curious because wasn't he involved with the PC for a while as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think he basically used to run the women's
Oh, I
matches and
bet he
stuff.
did.
Oh yeah. But I think I remember. I don't know. It was just the Irish connection, but I think Becky threw a shout out to him not too long ago, or like about how much he'd helped there. So hopefully he's still around. But yeah, he's normally like a helper of the women and like putting their matches together and stuff.
Ah, right. Ah, fair enough. And how's Hornswoggle these days?
He's keeping himself to himself. He's just spending his dad's millions, Vince, obviously. So yeah,
Oh, I totally forgot about that. Jesus Christ. We need to do a top 10 worst fucking bookings because that's got to be on there. Jesus.
I don't think I could fucking limit myself to 10. To be fair, if we're going all out.
uh, Crazy.